ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something, and I want you to be real with yourself when you answer it. How many times have you sat by that phone, your finger hovering over that name, your heart pounding in your chest, your mind racing with 1,000 different reasons why you should or shouldn't make that call? How many nights have you laid awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why he hasn't reached out, wondering if you even crossed his mind, wondering if what you shared meant anything at all? I'm going to tell you something today that might shake you to your core, something that might make you look at every single relationship you've ever had in a completely different light. Because what makes a man reach out first, what makes him pick up that phone and call you before you've even had the chance to think about calling him, it's not what you think. It's not about how beautiful you are. It's not about how good you were to him. It's not about the memories you shared or the promises he made. There's something deeper at play here, something most women spend their entire lives never understanding, and I'm about to lay it all out for you right now. Let me take you back to a conversation I had with a young woman not too long ago. She was sitting across from me, tears welling up in her eyes. And she said, "Steve, I don't understand. I gave him everything. I loved him unconditionally. I was there for him when nobody else was. And now he just disappeared. He doesn't call. He doesn't text. He acts like I don't even exist." And she said something that broke my heart. She said, "What did I do wrong? What is wrong with me that he can just walk away and never look back?" And I had to stop her right there. I said, "Young lady, you need to understand something that is going to change your entire life if you let it. You think this is about you. You think his silence is a reflection of your worth. But I'm here to tell you that when a man goes silent, when a man pulls away and doesn't reach out, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what's happening inside his own mind, inside his own heart, inside his own battle with himself. You see, men are not like women. We are wired differently. We process things differently. We deal with emotions differently. And this is where so many women get confused. You think that because he's not calling, he doesn't care. But let me tell you, sometimes the man who doesn't call is the man who cares the most. The man who stays silent is often the man who is fighting the biggest battle inside himself. Because for a man, reaching out first is not just a simple act of picking up the phone. For a man, reaching out means opening a door. It means vulnerability. It means admitting that he needs something or someone in a way that makes him feel weak. And if there's one thing we men have been conditioned to fear our entire lives, it's being perceived as weak. So when you ask me what makes a man reach out first, you have to understand that behind that simple action is a lifetime of conditioning, a lifetime of being told to be strong, to be independent, to never show emotion, to never need anybody. Think about this. A woman can have a bad day, call her friend, cry on the phone, talk about her feelings and feel better. That's healthy. That's natural. A man can have a bad day and he will go into his cave. He'll withdraw. He'll shut down because we have been taught to solve our problems on our own. We have been taught that reaching out is admitting defeat. So when you're sitting there waiting for him to call, wondering why he hasn't reached out, I need you to consider something. He may be sitting there staring at that same phone, wanting to call you so bad it physically hurts, but he's frozen because he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to express what he's feeling. He doesn't know how to be vulnerable without feeling like he's losing himself. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a man who has just lost his job. He's embarrassed. He's ashamed. He feels like a failure. He loves you. He wants to be with you. But every time he thinks about calling you, he hears a voice in his head telling him he's not enough. He's not a provider anymore. How can he show up for you when he can't even show up for himself? So he withdraws. He goes quiet. And from the outside, you see a man who doesn't care. You see a man who's ignoring you. You see a man who's pushing you away. But inside, he is drowning. Inside, he is crying out for help, even though he doesn't know how to say it. And that is the tragedy of the male ego. That is the tragedy of the way men are raised. We are taught to suffer in silence. We are taught to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And we are taught that asking for help, reaching out, showing that we need someone is the ultimate sign of weakness. So when you're wondering what makes a man reach out first, you need to understand the internal war he is fighting. It's not about you. It's not about whether he loves you or not. It's about whether he can love himself enough in that moment to let you in. It's about whether he can silence the voices in his head that tell him he's not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough of your love. And let me tell you something that might sting a little bit. The man who reaches out first, the man who calls you because he needs to hear your voice, the man who admits he's struggling, the man who shows you his flaws and his fears, that is a man who has conquered his own pride. That is a man who has faced his own demons and decided that you are more important than his ego. That is a man who has realized that vulnerability is not weakness. That is a man who has learned that love requires risk. But let me also tell you this, and this is important. The reason why so many men don't reach out first is because they don't know how to process what they're feeling. You see, women have a natural ability to articulate emotions. When you feel something, you can talk about it. You can analyze it. You can share it. Men feel things just as deeply. I promise you that. But we don't have the same tools. We feel things and we feel overwhelmed by them. We feel things and we don't understand why we feel them. We feel things and instead of talking about it, we push it down. We distract ourselves. We find something to do, something to fix, something to occupy our minds so we don't have to deal with the flood of emotions we don't understand. So when you ask why he hasn't called, the answer might simply be that he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to translate the chaos inside his heart into words that will make sense to you. Now, I want to take you deeper into this because there's a layer here that most people never talk about, and it's the layer that will either set you free or keep you trapped in confusion for the rest of your life. You see, when a man reaches out first, it is almost never about what you did or didn't do. It is about where he is in his own journey. A man who is secure in himself, a man who knows his worth, A man who has done the work on himself, he does not hesitate to reach out. He does not play games. He does not wait 3 days to call. He does not follow these silly rules that people have invented about dating and relationships. A man who knows who he is will pick up that phone and tell you exactly what's on his mind because he is not afraid of your response. He is not afraid of rejection. He is not afraid of looking vulnerable. He is not afraid of being seen. And that is the secret that I need you to understand. The man who hesitates to reach out, the man who goes silent, the man who disappears for days or weeks at a time, that is a man who is still fighting his own insecurities. That is a man who has not yet learned to love himself fully. And until he does that, he will never be able to show up for you the way you deserve. You cannot give what you do not have. And if a man does not have peace within himself, he cannot bring peace into your life. If a man does not have clarity within himself, he cannot bring clarity to your relationship. This is not a judgment on men, by the way. This is simply the truth of how we are wired. We have to figure ourselves out first. We have to conquer our own mountains before we can climb any mountain with you. Let me share another story with you. I knew a man once, a successful man, a man who had everything the world said he should want: money, status, respect. But inside he was empty. Inside he was terrified. And he had a woman who loved him, a woman who would have done anything for him, a woman who waited by the phone every single night hoping he would call. And he wanted to call her. He loved her. He loved her more than he had ever loved anyone. But he couldn't bring himself to reach out first because he was convinced that he was going to mess it up. He was convinced that eventually she would see through him. She would realize he wasn't as strong as he pretended to be, and she would leave. So instead of risking that, instead of being vulnerable, he pushed her away. He stayed silent, and he watched her walk out of his life. And I sat with that man years later, and I watched him cry like a baby. And he said to me, "Steve, I lost the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too scared to pick up the phone. I was too scared to say, I need you. I was too scared to admit that I was falling apart. And by the time I got the courage to call, she had moved on. She had found someone who wasn't afraid to reach out. She had found a man who was secure enough to show up." Now, I want you to hear me clearly on this. That is not a story about her. That is a story about him. And that is the point I am trying to make to you today. When a man does not reach out first, it is a reflection of his own internal state. It is not a measure of your value. It is not a measure of your beauty. It is not a measure of your worth. It is a measure of his readiness, his maturity, his emotional availability. And here is where I need to tell you something that might be hard to hear. You can be the most amazing woman in the world. You can be kind, loyal, loving, supportive, beautiful inside and out. And you can still find yourself waiting on a man who never calls, because it is not about you. It is about him. It is about his journey. It is about the work he has or hasn't done on himself. Let me get real with you for a moment. There are men out there who will use your love as a crutch. They will use your attention as validation. They will keep you hanging on, not because they truly want to be with you, but because they like the way you make them feel about themselves. And those men, they will never reach out first in a genuine way. They will reach out when they need something. They will reach out when they're lonely. They will reach out when they want an ego boost. But they will never reach out because they genuinely want to connect with you, because they genuinely want to be with you. They will reach out on their terms when it's convenient for them, when they have nothing else going on. And you will mistake that for interest. You will mistake that for love. But let me tell you, that is not love. That is convenience. That is selfishness dressed up in a pretty suit. Real love, genuine love, the kind of love that makes a man reach out first is different. It is intentional. It is consistent. It is not based on how he's feeling that day. It is not based on whether he's having a good week or a bad week. A man who truly loves you, a man who has done the work on himself, a man who is emotionally mature, he will reach out because he wants to be part of your life, not because he needs something from you. He will reach out because your presence brings him peace, not because your absence makes him anxious. And that is a huge distinction that most women don't understand. You keep accepting crumbs, thinking that someday you'll get the whole loaf. But I'm telling you, a man who doesn't reach out first consistently is telling you everything you need to know. He is telling you where you stand. He is telling you what his priorities are. He is telling you what he is capable of. And you have to be willing to listen. I know this is hard. I know this is painful. I know you might be sitting there right now thinking about someone who hasn't called you, and my heart goes out to you. I know what it feels like to wonder. I know what it feels like to hope. I know what it feels like to make excuses for someone because you love them. But I need you to love yourself enough to stop making excuses. I need you to love yourself enough to see the truth. And the truth is, a man who wants to be with you will move mountains to be with you. A man who wants to be with you will not let pride, fear, or insecurity stop him. He will call. He will show up. He will reach out first because he cannot stand the thought of not having you in his life. That is not a game. That is not a strategy. That is human nature. That is the way love works. Now, I want to talk to you about something that might just flip the entire script in your mind. Because we've been talking about what makes a man reach out first, and I've been telling you that it's about his internal state, his readiness, his emotional maturity. But here's the part that's really going to hit home, and it's the part that most people don't have the courage to say out loud. Sometimes a man doesn't reach out first because he simply doesn't want to. And I know that stings. I know that cuts deep. But I'm not here to sugarcoat anything for you. I'm here to tell you the truth, because the truth is the only thing that will set you free. And the truth is, there are men who will let you wait. There are men who will watch you wonder. There are men who will see your pain and still choose to stay silent. And that is not a man who loves you. That is a man who is using you as an option. And you have to be strong enough to recognize that and walk away. You see, here's what happens. A woman gives her heart to a man. She invests her time, her energy, her emotions. She believes in his potential. She sees the man he could be, not the man he is. And she waits. She waits for him to change. She waits for him to wake up